When you talk about the rivalry between Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, you can't just limit it to football anymore. This isn't simply about who throws tighter spirals or reads a defense faster. No, this is about who can own the narrative, who can become the face that fans were on their backs, that brands clamor to work with, and that the media can't get enough of. And right now, that's Shedeur's world, and Dillon is just visiting, without an invite. It started small. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. A few Instagram posts here, a custom hoodie there. Dillon figured, hey, if Shedeur can make merch work, why can't I? He's got the stats, he's got the followers, he's got the charisma, or at least he thought he did. But here's the problem. Selling yourself isn't about having all the right ingredients. It's about making people believe you're the main event. And Shedeur? He's turned belief into currency. His drops don't just sell out, they evaporate. The moment he posts a teaser on his stories, fans are setting alarms like it's a sneaker release. Meanwhile, Dillon's launch days have a different vibe. Less digital stampede and more quiet afternoon at the mall. You can almost hear the crickets in his online store. Even when he tries something bold, a new colorway, a motivational slogan, it just doesn't land. And that's the part that stings the most. It's not that his stuff is bad, it's that it's invisible. What's wild is that Shedeur isn't just pushing clothes. He's selling a lifestyle. Every item feels like part of a bigger story. A hoodie isn't just a hoodie. It's a symbol of you were here for the rise. A cap isn't just a cap. It's proof you've got taste, that you're in on the moment before it hits the mainstream. He's blended football success with personal branding so seamlessly that people forget they're buying sports merch. It's become fashion. And Shedeur's market reach? Global. You got college kids in Los Angeles wearing his stuff like it's streetwear. High school quarterbacks in Texas want his gloves not because they need them for the game, but because they want to look like him. Even casual NFL fans, people who couldn't care less about the Browns, are copying his shirts because the designs are good enough to stand on their own. Dillons Market? Well, it's mostly friends, family, and a few loyal fans who will support anything he does out of principle. He's stuck in that brutal spot where the product might be fine, but the brand identity just isn't strong enough to break out of its bubble. And this is where the frustration boils over. It's not just about sales figures. It's about what those figures represent. Every time Shedeur drops a sold-out collection, it's another headline, another boost his reputation as a rising star on and off the field. Every time Dillon launches something that quietly fizzles, it feeds the perception that he's playing catch-up in every category. Inside the Browns facility, this hasn't gone unnoticed. Teammates joke about it good-naturedly for now. You see Shedeur's new drop? Sold out in 10 minutes. They'll say, glancing at Dillon with a smirk. He laughs along, but inside, it's eating at him. Because football is supposed to be the great equalizer. On the field, talent talks. But off the field, it's a different game entirely, and Shedeur is already the MVP. Part of Shedeur's advantage is that he's media trained in a way most rookies aren't. His interviews are clean but charismatic, humble yet confident. He knows when to flash a smile, when to drop a memorable one-liner, and when to keep quiet and let the mystery build. That skill translates directly to his brand. Every public appearance becomes a subtle ad campaign. Dillon, on the other hand, still stumbles in front of the camera. It's not that he says the wrong thing. It's that he doesn't say enough to make people remember. And let's talk collaborations. Shedeur's got them lined up like rush hour traffic. From sneaker brands to energy drinks, everyone wants a piece of the Sanders momentum. Each partnership feeds into the next, creating this snowball effect where his name becomes synonymous with cool. Dillon? He's at offers, but they're smaller, more local. Stuff that's fine for a mid-tier player but doesn't scream national spotlight. What makes this branding battle so brutal is that it's bleeding into the actual quarterback competition. Fans aren't just comparing stats. They're comparing clout. Who can draw a crowd at a charity event? Who gets recognized at the airport? Who's getting the louder cheer during warm-ups? It's almost unfair, because these aren't things you can fix by studying the playbook or hitting the weight room. This is about cultural footprint. And Shedeur's is already huge. For Dillon, the pressure is twofold. He's fighting for his job on the field, but he's also fighting for relevance off it. And the more he loses in the merch game, the more it feels like he's losing the war for hearts and minds. In an era where marketability can influence playing time, yes, even in the NFL, this isn't just a vanity issue. It's a career issue. The irony is that Dillon genuinely works hard on his branding. He brainstorms designs, invests in marketing, even tries to bring in creative consultants. But effort doesn't always equal results. Without that intangible spark, the story people want to buy into, it's like shouting into a void. Meanwhile, Shedeur could probably release a plain white t-shirt with his number on it and still crash his own website. The emotional toll is real. Dillon's been seen staying late after practice, scrolling through social media with a tight jaw as post after post celebrates Shedeur's latest drop. He'll click into the comments, see the hype, the fan art, the hashtags, and it's like getting sacked over and over again, but this time by the internet. And yet he doesn't quit. There's something admirable about that. Even as the gap widens, Dillon keeps trying, keeps tweaking the designs, keeps posing for shoots, keeps hoping that the next launch will be the one that catches fire. In a way, that persistence might be the only thing keeping him from being completely overshadowed. Still, the reality is unavoidable. Shedeur has turned himself into more than a quarterback. He's a cultural figure. His brand is the kind of thing that lived beyond the scoreboard. And in today's NFL, that's the ultimate trump card. Talent gets you on the field. Marketability keeps you there. Dillon might win a few games. He might even outplay Shedeur in a practice or two. But as long as Shedeur keeps winning in the court of public opinion and in the online marketplace, this rivalry won't just be about football. It'll be about who owns the era. And right now, all signs point to Shedeur building an empire, while Dillon's still fighting to get his store noticed. If you zoom out, this isn't just her story. It's the modern NFL in a nutshell. The game is no longer just played between the lines. It's played on timelines, in online stores, in marketing meetings. The quarterbacks who understand that are the ones who end up bigger than the game itself. And Shedeur Sanders? He's proving that he understands it better than anyone. See, for decades in the NFL, the QB1 decision was sold as a purely football move. Coaches would talk about arm talent, decision-making, and leadership in a huddle like they were the only things that mattered. And sure, those factors still carry weight. But in 2025, the quarterback is also the CEO of the brand that is the franchise. He's a guy on the billboard, in the commercials, plastered across every piece of merch. And that means his marketability directly affects revenue streams, ticket sales, jersey sales, partnerships, and even TV ratings. The Browns front office is no stranger to this shift. They've seen what happens when you have a quarterback who not only wins games, but sells the idea of the team to the public. And right now, that guy is Shedeur Sanders. His sold-out merch lines aren't just a vanity metric. They're a barometer of fan engagement. Every drop he sells out is proof to ownership that he's moving the needle in ways that extend far beyond Sunday afternoons. Gabriel? His on-field work might be respectable, but from a business standpoint, he's flatlining. When the marketing department pulls up the weekly sales numbers and Shedeur's name is lighting up the spreadsheets while Dillon's barely registers, it's not hard to imagine who the owner wants on the field. Because here's the dirty little secret. If the QB1 decision is 80% football, that last 20% is often about everything but football. Now imagine you're Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner. You've got a fan base starved for excitement, and one quarterback is already a walking PR campaign. Every time Shedeur does something, drops merch, goes on a podcast, posts a workout clip, you're getting free media coverage, national coverage. Your franchise is trending without spending a cent on ad buys. Why wouldn't you lean into that? The problem is, leaning into that sends shockwaves through the locker room. Football guys, the lifers, the purists, bristle at the idea of branding influencing depth chart decisions. They want the starting job to be earned solely between the lines. If they think a QB1 spot is being handed out based on Instagram followers instead of completions, it can fracture trust in the coaching staff. This is where the front office and coaching staff can find themselves at odds. The marketing team and ownership might be whispering, "He's the future. Play him now." Meanwhile, Stefanski and his assistants are weighing practice grades, playbook mastery, and veteran dynamics. That gap in priorities is where internal drama brews. And the stakes for the Browns couldn't be higher. We're talking about a franchise that spent decades trying to find a guy. They've cycled through quarterbacks like a bad Netflix series, one promising trailer after another, only for the season to be canceled by week 10. If Shedeur even feels like the real deal, there's going to be enormous pressure to make him the face of the team sooner rather than later. The danger? If they push him too early because of marketability and he falters, the backlash will be brutal. The narrative will flip from Shedeur the star to Shedeur the bust in the time it takes for one bad stat line to hit Twitter. That's why Stefanski might be dragging his feet, because once you make Shedeur QB1, there's no going back. But here's where Dillon's branding struggle feeds into Shedeur's rise. The fact that Dillon isn't a marketable star makes it easier for the front office to justify benching him. If you're going to take a risk on a younger QB, you might as well do it with a guy who's already paying off financially. From a cold, business-minded perspective, Dillon is replaceable. Shedeur, he's an investment. And the more Dillon publicly struggles to sell his own image, the more his merch sits unsold, the more his social media posts get ignored, the worse his leverage gets. In the NFL's modern equation, he's losing in both columns, on-field momentum and off-field influence. That's a recipe for quietly getting pushed out of the picture. This is why you'll sometimes hear anonymous sources start leaking little nuggets to the media. Things like coaches have been impressed with Shedeur's leadership, or ownership sees him as the future. These aren't random comments. They're trial balloons. The front office is testing the public reaction, prepping the fan base for a possible QB change. And with Shedeur's merch fly off the shelves, they already know what the fan base will say. Start him. It's the perfect storm. A QB competition where one player dominates on the field and in the market is hard to resist. And while the Browns will keep saying we're evaluating all options in public, make no mistake. In those private meetings, the financial and branding implications are part of the conversation. If this keeps trending the way it is now, Dillon's best hope isn't to win the QB1 job outright. His best hope might be to position himself as the reliable backup, the guy who stays ready, stays professional, and gets his shot if Shedeur stumbles. Because fighting for a QB1 against a player who's winning both the football game and the brand war, that's a battle he's already losing. Here's the thing most casual fans don't realize. In today's NFL, a quarterback who can generate national attention is more than just an athlete. He's a walking marketing department. He's the centerpiece of every ticket ad, every team promo, every hype video. And when you have someone like Shedeur, whose merch sells out in minutes, whose social media clips go viral before the final whistle, and whose name alone draws coverage from outlets that don't normally talk Browns football, you're not just adding a player. You're adding an economic engine, sponsorship impact. Think about what happens when you put a star like Shedeur in that QB1 slot. Local and national sponsors see an opportunity to attach themselves to a young, exciting, marketable face. Suddenly, you've got car dealerships wanting him in commercials, regional grocery chains offering deals tied to his passing yards, even national brands willing to cut bigger checks for signage and ad placement at Browns games, because they know Shedeur will bring eyeballs. That's not hypothetical. That's how the NFL ecosystem works now. Teams use their quarterbacks to sell everything. And if your QB's image aligns with a lifestyle or a cultural movement, like Shedeur's cool under pressure vibe, his fashion sense, and his connection to a younger fan demographic, you can tap into revenue streams that a more traditional, low-profile QB like Dillon Gabriel simply can't reach. Ticket sales and attendance. Let's be honest. The Browns could fill seats with a competitive team no matter who's under center. But how many seats and what kind of fan are we talking about? Shedeur's presence has the potential to change the crowd makeup. You're not just drawing the die-hard Cleveland faithful. You're bringing in casual NFL fans, out-of-town visitors, and younger audiences who see Shedeur as a star first and a quarterback second. This isn't just good for the gate. It's good for premium sales. VIP boxes, sideline passes, and club seating sell faster when there's a sense you're watching something culturally relevant, not just another game. Shedeur makes Browns games an event, and that can mean millions in extra revenue over the course of the season. Merchandising beyond jerseys. Right now, Shedeur's jersey is the obvious bestseller, but the real money comes from expanding that merch universe. With his style and crossover appeal, the Browns could build out an entire line of streetwear-inspired gear. Caps, hoodies, sneakers. That appeal to fans who might not even watch football regularly. Imagine a Sanders Saturdays, clothing drop tied to every home game. Or limited edition collabs with sneaker brands, with colors matching the week's opponent. That kind of merch strategy can bring in as much as game day ticket revenue. And Shedeur is the perfect personality to anchor it. Dillon, for all his on-field talent, doesn't have the same pull in that arena. Media and broadcast opportunities. National TV loves a storyline. A rookie phenom with a famous father, playing for a historically snake-bitten franchise? That's ratings gold. Networks will push for more Browns primetime games as Shedeur is QB1 because they know viewers tune in for characters as much as competition. More primetime games means bigger advertising deals, better national exposure, and ultimately, more leverage in lead negotiations for future scheduling. And don't underestimate the off-field media play. Shedeur's interviews, endorsements, and podcast appearances can draw in audiences who otherwise wouldn't care about Cleveland sports. Every viral clip he generates becomes free marketing for the team. Internal power shifts. Now here's where it gets messy. When a player starts bringing this much money for a franchise, it can change his leverage in contract talks and even influence roster-building decisions. If Shedeur's presence is directly tied to a spike in ticket sales and merchandise revenue, the front office has to think long-term. Do you build the offense around him immediately, even if it means cutting veterans who don't fit his style? Do you give him a voice in play calling or personnel decisions earlier than you would for a normal rookie? How do you keep other players from resenting the star treatment he inevitably gets? If you mishandle that, you risk a locker room divide. Veterans who've been grinding for years without seeing the same love from ownership might start asking why Shedeur's brand matters more than their production. The Dillon Gabriel factor. This is where Dillon's situation gets even more precarious. In a straight football sense, maybe he's only slightly behind Shedeur, or even ahead in certain reads or schemes. But the ownership sees that Shedeur is a cash machine, they might push for him to start regardless of marginal differences in performance. And Dillon's lack of off-field brand power makes it harder to argue his case. Coaches can defend him in film sessions, but they can't argue with the numbers coming from the marketing department. If Shedeur is directly responsible for a measurable spike in revenue, that's ammo for every meeting where his name comes up. The potential domino effect. Once you make Shedeur QB1 for business reasons, and he starts delivering on the field, the ripple effects could change the entire franchise trajectory. Bigger free agent appeal. Stars in other positions might be more willing to sign with Cleveland if they know they'll be playing alongside a media magnet like Shedeur. National relevance. The Browns could go from being a regional team with a loyal fan base to a franchise with global recognition. Higher franchise valuation. If Shedeur sustains success for multiple seasons, the Browns' overall worth could skyrocket, which is exactly the kind of long-term play owners dream about. The real risk here isn't whether Shedeur can handle QB1. It's whether the Browns can balance the business boom he brings with the football reality of developing him at the right pace. Push too fast, and you risk burning him out. Hold him back too long, and you risk missing the wave entirely. But one thing is becoming clear. Shedeur isn't just in a QB competition. He's in the process of making himself indispensable to the Browns organization in a way Dillon Gabriel simply can't match. And in the modern NFL, that might matter just as much, if not more, than any preseason stat line. In the past, NFL front offices treated off-field marketability as a nice bonus, not a core reason to draft or start a player. Sure, a QB with charisma might land more endorsements, but the assumption was that winning games was the only thing that mattered for long-term franchise success. Now, Shedeur's case is poking holes in that logic. What happens if his presence in Cleveland shows that both can be built at the same time? That you could have a quarterback who elevates the team's play and drives revenue like a celebrity influencer? Suddenly, GMs across the league will have to ask themselves, Are we leaving money on the table by drafting a quiet leader instead of someone with both skills and a built-in audience? You could start seeing teams put more weight on social media engagement, personal brand alignment, and even cultural relevance during pre-draft evaluations. Imagine pre-draft meetings where scouts are breaking down not only 40-yard dash times and throwing mechanics, but also Instagram growth trends and podcast charisma ratings. It sounds wild now, but Shedeur is making that conversation feel less far-fetched. There's also a player power angle here. If rookies come in knowing that their brand value makes them harder to bench, they'll have leverage in ways past generations didn't. They might push for starting opportunities earlier, expect more say in play design, or even negotiate unique incentives tied to merch sales and viewership metrics. That shift would make the NFL start looking a lot more like the NBA in terms of star power driving both the game and the business. And while old-school coaches might roll their eyes at that, owners and marketing executives would see dollar signs. Shedeur's rise is basically a live experiment in what happens when a rookie quarterback becomes the most bankable asset in the building before even becoming a full-season starter. If it works, he could be the case study that changes scouting, contract structuring, and quarterback development philosophy for years to come. And Dillon Gabriel? If Shedeur sparks a league-wide trend, Dillon's struggle becomes a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you try to win in a world where performance alone might not be enough.